Alright, hey, welcome everyone to World of Dragons podcast, a podcast where Dragon and his writer get together to discover, review, and discuss dragon-centric media and literature, including but not limited to books, movies, shows, and games, to help you Dragon fans find the next World of Dragons you wish to visit. I am your Dragon host, Ray, and here is my writer, Bantam.
Hello.
Hello. Yes, it's been a while. We've been busy lately. Bantam actually just got back from visiting Dilatan.
In Florida, yes. We went to many zoos and many steakhouses.
Did the plan to kidnap and bring him back to the podcast against his will work?
A little bit. Diletan did say that he'd be amenable to coming back to the podcast on a, you know, like if it's a small or easy thing, like a TV show or a movie or an audiobook under 8 hours. I don't remember how many hours he said, or like a novella or something small. The thing is that he just doesn't have the time for like 18-hour audiobooks or.
The thing is, I think he does. He just doesn't want to wiggle on it. Like,
Yeah, probably.
Knowing what he does for a living, he could listen to him just as easy as we could at our old jobs.
Look, at the risk of him listening to this, which I don't think he will, he absolutely has plenty of free time. He just doesn't like books. And I
also,
think
just because the fact he likes playing games like Satisfactory, that's totally a podcast, audiobook listening kind of game. It's like, come on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a picture I want to get. I want to commission a picture of Diletan sitting in his computer chair because he has this very particular way of laying in his computer chair that I have never seen someone do, and I don't understand how it's comfortable in any way, shape, or form. But it is absolutely hilarious, and I just I need to get a picture of him, Diletan, as the dragon, like laying in a computer chair the way he does.
Have that be his bribe for joining the podcast again.
Yeah.
Enough about it. So yeah, we've been really busy. He took that vacation. There's been a lot of other stuff going on. I don't want to get into it, but there was some medical things to take care of. But yeah, gonna try to be a bit more, what's the term? Not scumbaggy with our responsibilities.
Well, I mean, again,
Just
we
responsible in general.
We dropped the Patreon and went to a, subscribe or
coffee Ko-fi?
model. Kofi. Well, I don't know if it's coffee or Kofi,
Right.
but it's more fair to listeners, and it's a lot less stress.
Yeah, because
on us.
we can't guarantee doing it systematically the same time every month. So it's like, yeah, this puts less stress on us, but whatever. Yeah. Point is, we're gonna try better. We're gonna do better. After Bantam gets his new job, we're gonna do better. All right. But so this episode anyway, 3 minutes of just this episode we're reviewing the book Origin, which is the first book in the Scales and Spells series by oh shit no. I always remember, like, I need to have like 5 tabs open, I always forget. Okay, so Origin by A.J. Sherwood. Yes, thank you. I need to have this information more on hand. Yeah. So I don't think Mr. Sherwood is going to listen to this, but in case you do, I'm sorry. This book is the absolute worst Dragon Shifter erotica I have ever read. And Bantam, is that true?
It's all right. So, longtime listeners of the show will remember the Knight's Fire episode, which was a very short erotica, and I hated that book. But I don't. I think that was probably like on my lowest of the low. This one kind of replaced it. But we'll get into the reasons why, because it's not. It's not that the book was just written so badly. It's, to me, there's a lot of small mitigating factors that make this kind of the worst book
There
we've done.
were some decisions made that I just disagree with so vehemently that I have given it the title of the worst book I've ever read,
And
as far as Dragon erotica goes.
yeah, and for me, there's completely different reasons that are probably not what Ray agrees with, but we'll get into that.
But yeah, so we've only kind of reviewed good stuff on the show mostly. So figure, you know what, we need to do some bad things every now and then. Here's a good thing to stay away from. We'll tell you the reasons why we don't like it, and you can decide for yourself of like, hey, that's a good reason, I'll stay away, or you know what, I disagree, that actually sounds interesting. Everyone's different. This is just
And
my opinion. This is the worst thing I've ever read.
yeah, and don't ever take our word as gospel, because there are plenty of times where I'll listen to a review of something and I'll be like, wow, they said it was like the worst thing they ever did, and then I'll go watch it or listen to it or whatever, and I'm like, oh, that wasn't so bad, and it's like, even bad publicity is publicity.
Also, I do want to point out that even though I call it the worst thing I have ever read, it is still part of a 5-book series. I have read 4 out of the 5, so I continued on with the series. I just didn't read the last one because last one my interest petered out because the dragon that I care about the most found his mate in the second last one. So I'm like, okay, I don't care anymore. And you know what? It might eventually get reread. Like, I obviously reread the first book for the sake of this podcast to kind of refresh myself a bit. But, like, I might reread books 2, 3, and 4 again later. Like, I call it the worst. It's not that bad. It's just I hate some of the decisions he made in it. But alas, enough beating around the bush. We'll get into it. Before that, I do have a really sad announcement. Dragon news. We don't usually have a lot of dragon news, but I got a really sad dragon news for you guys. Bantam, do you remember we saw a trailer like a year or so ago for a animated feature film that involved a blue anthro dragon that apparently lived underwater? It was called The Hidden Dragon.
Yeah, the one, it was like an Anthro Eastern water dragon.
Uh-huh.
Oh, did that get canceled?
It got canceled.
God damn it.
Yep, it has quietly been canceled. It will most likely not see the light of day, barring some sort of miracle. So we just have, sadly, another scale-bound situation.
All right, I don't know if I'd hold a 3D animated Chinese movie to the same standard as Scalebound, but okay.
I just mean scale-bound situation in the sense that something that was almost done is
related.
getting canceled, and we're not going to get to see it because I think I haven't dug too much into it. I think it was the studio changed too many times, and like it got messy, and the people who now currently hold the IP just don't care about it. But we'll see. All right. Anyway, so to start off this first half of the episode, we will do the spoiler-free review as always for those first-time listeners. The first half of the episode, like half hour or so, we try to review the book with as little spoilers as possible to give you listeners an actual honest impression on if you want to listen to this yourself or not, or read it yourself or not. We then have a really, really small break, like a 15-second music segment that gives you time to pause the episode so you can like frantically fish your phone out of your pocket in case you want to not be spoiled. But then when we come back, we get into deeper discussion about what we did and did not like about the book, and no holds barred, all the spoilers go at that point. Alright, so, very brief synopsis for this book. It is an alternate Earth setting where the only real difference is that dragons and magic do exist. We still have, like, all the same countries, the same technology level and all of that. The main character actually starts out in vacation on Germany, doing a backpack across Europe before he starts a new job as a mechanical engineer. So it is contemporary fantasy in that sense. And
the worst kind of fantasy.
It's okay. I actually enjoy alternate Earth. I know you prefer more high fantasy stuff, but like
I hate it for one reason. They constantly make pop culture jokes, and they constantly make references to like TV shows and movies. And it's to me, it's just the author just elbowing you in the ribs, going, "Eh, eh," and it's like, shut the fuck up.
But yeah, so it is male pairing. It's a gay book, and it is flat out erotica because there is an A plot and a B plot. The A plot is some like weird sinister stuff happening in the background with like dark pasts and all that, right? Which we'll get into later. But the B plot is the romance plot. It's the main character falling in love with the main dragon character. The book is 2 POVs. It jumps between the two of them. Chapter 1's Cameron, Chapter 2 is Ulrich, Chapter 3 is Cameron, so on and so forth, right? And there are several, I want to say 3, it might be 4, actual like sex chapters where the nookie happens, as they call it.
They actually do call it that in the fucking book, too. At one point, Cameron literally says, I want to get some of that dragon nookie. And Auric is like, whatever that means, but I think I get the idea. And I'm like, fuck you for all that whole sentence.
Bantam hates some of the language the characters themselves use, which is like, the language itself is forgivable because it is set in modern day.
The main character describes
a lot of the slang does work. but he hates it.
The main character describes Arik as yummy like 6 times in the book, and I hate every time I hear it. It's like nails on a chalkboard.
Yeah, it is a dragon shifter romance, and we all know this is one of the greatest sins because the dragons are being hidden. Ulrich spends 99% of the book in human form.
Yeah, I think he only ever transforms once, and it's like what his retainer is like, you need to get some sun, and he transforms into a dragon, and that's when it's like revealed that like, he can't fly. Actually, it's twice because there's once in like a downtime, just like chilling out, and then another time when he toward the end of the book, which is spoiler territory, but he only transforms twice, and it's probably for, if you count the events of the book, probably for a grand total of an hour, like of the whole setting.
Obviously, that means all the sex happens between human form, and it's just like, it's not what we like to see as dragon fans, right?
Yeah, basically.
So that's actually like the first mark that I have against it as far as why this is the worst dragon shifter ever. Because while we haven't read a lot, I haven't read a lot of Dragon Shifter. It this one feels like the dragons were hidden the most out of everything I've read so far.
Uh, Not only are the dragons quote unquote hidden, but they're spoken of as
Oh yeah,
others.
as a
The
separate
the
entity.
characters in their human form that are dragons will constantly make reference. They'll say something along the lines of, for example, my dragon is screaming inside me, and it's like, no, you just they act like the dragon is trapped inside of them, and that when they transform, it's like a different person.
Yeah, for example, when the dragons want to spread their wings to fly around or whatever, they don't say I need to spread my wings. They say my dragon needs to spread his wings, which is a very weird language choice. But then when you're doing the chapters from Ulrich's point of view, and he's like getting very possessive of a Cameron, it's written in first person, so he'll say my dragon raised his head in curiosity and rumbled softly, but I pushed him back down to quiet him because I didn't want to deal with that right now. So it definitely feels like a little schizo in that sense. And it's just, I hate it. I hate the concept of it being a separate entity rather than them just being dragons. Because, like, the reason I want to jump to the worst Dragon Shifter book we've ever read is because the last book we did was the best Dragon Shifter I've ever read. To the point where I completely forgive it for being a dragon ship. Like, it was good. It made sense for the story and for the world. Like, it was great. Nico Sandumas is like actual husband material. And the thing is, like, in those books, when you're doing the point of view chapters from Nico Sandumas, it's like he still thinks like a dragon. He is a dragon. He sees the world as a dragon.
He constantly makes references to his claws out loud in front of other people, and they look at him funny, and he's like, fingernails.
Yeah, and he like has a hard time like grasping concepts that the humans have, such as like camaraderie and sympathy and stuff like that, right? But like in this book, it's like no, they're flat out just they're just humans. Like the best you get is them not knowing a particular slang term because they've been hidden away from the world for so long or something. But like that's it. They act and think exactly like humans do.
Do you want to know what saves this book from being a 0 out of 10 for me?
They play Halo.
No, what? No. Yeah, there's a whole thing where they're like, we are somewhat modern. They gave us PlayStations a while ago, and they play
Yeah,
D&D, which
the
I think
dragons
is
play Halo and they
I,
play D&D and
I think it's pretty
stuff.
funny that dragons are playing D&D. But whatever. The one saving grace for me is that the narrator fucking nailed this book. Like I have
Oh,
there's only one tiny complaint I have about the narrator for this book, but I mean, he fucking smoothed over the fucking rough edges that this book had.
yeah. I love the narrator. Like he was one of I actually only found this book because I listened to something else that was narrated by him. The narrator is Joel Leslie, by the way. I just looked him up real fast. Joel Leslie has narrated my favorite xenofiction erotica book, and like we'll get to that eventually. But like he's narrated my absolute favorite erotic series. It's called Pike, right? And like I loved that book and his performance so well that I actually looked up, hey, what else did he narrate? Which I never do because narrators don't usually stick to a particular genre or anything. They kind of just like bounce around. I've noticed, and I saw this under his not discography, but whatever his works. on Audible and gave it a try. And you know what? It sucked, but it was fun, right? There are some like good things I like about the book. I like some of the world building. I really love the way they do magic. Honestly, the magic system is great. It's the incantations are weird, and I'll get into why incantations are weird later. But the way the mages craft their spells is they have to gather magical ingredients, and they're natural things that arguably would have very, I don't know how to describe it, like very magical properties in a world of magic existed. Stuff like reflected sunlight or untouched snow or like the first dew of spring kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I remember in a future book they have to gather reflected moonlight and they have to go out on a clear night to a lake when there's like no breeze or anything, so that the surface of the water is not disturbed, and they basically collect the water that has the moon in it, and that's how they get reflected moonlight. Which, like, logically in a science setting makes no fucking sense because the moon's position changes depending on where you're standing. But in a magical setting, it's kind of fun, right? Anyway, so that's the brief synopsis. A plot, B plot. We're not going to touch on the A plot too much because that gets kind of spoilery. But B plot is just those two falling in love. Cameron has a hard time accepting the fact that he is a mage, and so there's a little bit of self-worth issues at the beginning, I think. Not a whole lot.
It
But
it the B plot pissed me off because there were so many instances of Cameron getting angry over fucking nothing, and to me it felt like a character where the author like pushes a button to go, oh, we need conflict here, and it's like, was this really worth the conflict? Because like at one point he finds out dragons are real and he's so excited, he's like a kid in Disneyland, and then he finds out he's a mage and he's like, I can't believe this, you're crazy, and he fucking loses his shit and he like storms out of the castle and he's like, I want to go home, I don't want to talk to you, and it's like none this reaction doesn't make any fucking sense. You
they
found
tried
it.
to just they tried to describe it later on that it was because he wanted to be a mage so badly when he was a kid that having it kind of like teased in front of him like that was like, oh, like almost harsh. Like
It
I don't.
wasn't. It wasn't teased though. Like they straight up said that mages have a particular smell, and Cameron asked, "Well, what if it's just because I'm a descendant of mages? Wouldn't that also make me smell
Yeah,
like
but
that?"
all
And
of
they
that
said,
clarification came afterwards after he'd already stormed out.
"I don't think so. I don't. I
Yeah,
mean,
there
I.
was that was in the car while Dieter, I think it was driving him home.
Oh. Well, at any rate, it felt to me so forced. Like shit, they need to have a conflict.
It definitely felt forced in the moment, but after they kind of explained it later on, it made a bit more sense. I just think that was a problem the author had in the moment with making it seem believable. Like it could have been paced or brought out a bit better or something. Um, but yeah, anyway, Bantam, how would you say the quality of the book was? Like, how was the writing style? How believable was the dialogue?
Oh. All right. Writing quality 3 out of 10. Or are we doing a 5 scale? So 1 out of 5. Believability of the dialogue, fucking 0 out of 5. The dialogue was so crass and stupid, and like it's so full of just fucking lazy
uh,
bullshit. It's
Again, disclaimer to the audience: most of his issues is with language like calling someone yummy. He can't comprehend anyone in real life calling somebody yummy out
no
loud to their
my
face.
my problem with the book mainly was and I'm kind of telling on myself here. I just don't think I like erotica. I don't find sex appealing. And but at the same time, I know that there are certain words that you want to avoid when you're describing a dick. This book does not care and uses some of the most crass and just unsexy fucking words possible. And on top of that, the dialogue during the sex, you can hear the 70s music in the background. It is so fucking corny and stupid, and it doesn't make any sense at all. Like there's this fucking kid who finds out he's a mage and he's, stripping in front of an ancient fucking dragon, and he's cracking the dumbest fucking one-liners from like the cheesiest porno ever. I cringed at every sex scene. As soon as I noticed that it was getting hot and heavy, I just would skip forward like 30 seconds a couple times, and it because it was just repulsive to listen to. And not just because it was sex, but because the word choices were so fucking bad. Like to me, he's never written an erotica before. This was his very first one, maybe. I don't know. It
I don't
was
know.
just
I haven't looked at the author's past works. I will admit, every time the word cock comes out, I giggle because the narrator puts such emphasis on it too. Whenever
cock.
it came up, it's like personally, I prefer like shaft and member and whatever, but cock is always like it's such a sharp word. It like just pulls me out
he
of it. Like
he
whoa,
used he used the word penis a couple times, which is always giggly to me.
because
Um,
it's like the scientific accurate one. So it's
yeah,
like
and dick and cock, and it's like neither dick or cock are sexy in the context of erotica. Sorry, they're just not. It's yes, member, shaft, pole, whatever. Those are fine.
pull.
Yeah, because they're softer. But cock and dick are like, all right, come on,
Brampton, what's your favorite word for penis?
member.
I personally like shaft. Rod is okay, I guess.
Pork sword. Taryn.
Everyone in Discord, favorite
Everyone in
euphemism.
Discord, meat steak. Man
Um,
berries.
alright, so your problem with the dialogue aside, was the book itself written well?
No,
No.
no.
I think it was
I
written
it
well. Okay,
felt
like
to
I
me it felt to me like someone wrote a somewhat decent fantasy novel and then someone else went, "Hey, why don't we make it porn?" And then the other guy went, I mean, okay, I guess." And then he went through the story and inserted sex scenes. And it felt like two completely different writers because the A plot I actually kind of enjoyed. I actually was like, "Oh, yeah, like I was more into this whole ancient, mages and dragons and, living in a castle in modern day Germany and all the fucking members of the castle. I was actually getting invested. And then Cameron would find Ulrich in his bedroom, and then I'd be like, oh, God.
I think the book was written well. Like writing style wise, it was very simple, but it was fine. Like there are other books I've read, usually by amateur writers, which understandably they're amateurs. Everyone's got to learn, right? But their writing styles are usually much rougher, especially because I feel like they don't go through the editing process like they should. Um, I didn't have this issue with this book. This book was it was again very simplistic writing, but it was very smooth and understandable. My problems came with a lot of its world building choices, but like as far as the writing itself, it's not that difficult to get through if it's a genre and stuff that you enjoy.
There was an awful lot of tropey shit, too, in the thing that bothered me, but we'll get into that. Like,
Yeah,
well, it's not really much of a spoiler, but at one point the big bad of the book is revealed, and the good guys are watching the bad guy through essentially a magical cat drone. And the bad guy picks, like, it's invisible, and there's multiple dragons feeding magic into this thing to make sure it stays invisible and undetected. And the dude just turns around, sees it, picks up the cat, and is like, haha, spies. And it's like, all right, yeah, just fucking have the bad guy just turn around and be like, all that shit you just did doesn't mean shit to me because I'm so powerful. It's like, shut up. There were plenty there were plenty of times where I literally out loud just went, shut up in this fucking book.
how would you rate the book, the storylines, the plots, believability, or its verisimilitude?
I will say that the A plot. I'm just gonna say the plot. Ignoring
Mm.
the sex scenes. 7 out of 10. It was pretty believable. I well, it was pretty believable in most parts. The reason I say 7 out of 10 is because there are some scenes in the book where they turn into dragons and they're flying around and fighting and shit. And at one point after a battle, one of the Cameron asks one of the other characters like, "Oh, what about all the people? Are you checking social media to see if anybody saw dragons flying around?" And they're like, "Oh no, they think it was fireworks. I think we're good." And it's like, "No, no. The people would see fucking dragons flying around and it would be on like 100 fucking cell phones in 10 seconds and it would be up on Twitter." So,
Obviously, it was an AI video, so no, it's not real.
I mean, okay, yeah, I don't know how old this book is, but I mean, yes, that nowadays it's actually easier to fake it,
Hmm.
easier to explain it away as AI. But it's like the way they're just like, yeah, we're just gonna do shit out in the open. It's fine. there's a castle over here and dragons are flying around the castle and nobody sees or knows about it. So
I rate it pretty highly on its verisimilitude. The only thing that I don't buy is the concept of the dragons being essentially two beings in one body. That's a bit of a hard sell for me. But other than that, everything's like, you know what? Yeah, in a alternate Earth with dragons and magic, a lot of this makes sense. I can buy it. It's believable. I get it. They kind of explained very messily why magic technology doesn't mix. That's fine. They explained where all the dragons went, like why they aren't everywhere. And same thing for the mages. You know, I buy that as well. It was all fine.
the one thing that I totally didn't buy though is that the bad guys are a clan of mages called the Yaki, and they're like, no, they were wiped out 500 years ago, and it's like, yeah, and that's what everyone thought about you, and they were like so in disbelief that the Yaki survived and are like have a an actual decent amount. And they're like, how did they survive? It's impossible. We wiped them all out. And it's like, do you know how hard it is to wipe out an entire group of people? Like, even just a couple of them survive. And, it just didn't make any sense to me that they were so flabbergasted that, like, any of them survived.
If I remember correctly, the scene where that happened, it was less of a it's not possible. It's like literally not possible. More of a like it's a horrified that can't happen. That's impossible. Like no, like
No, it
Luke
was
when he learns Darth Vader's his father.
no,
It's like
it was
no, it's
when
not possible.
it was toward the end of the book, and it was when Arik was talking to the king of another dragon clan and letting him know that the Yaki have returned and that they have an entire village or whatever. And the other one's like, "That's impossible. We killed them all. They were gone."
Yeah, and then Ulrich specifies to him like we didn't kill them all. We only really worried about killing off the main Yaki, whatever his first name was, and like they didn't really care
Li-
about his followers.
Literally did not happen. I read the entire book today and yesterday. It's
At
fresh in
times
my
two
mind.
speed.
At 1.5.
Anyway, final category, Bantam. How would you rate its dream fulfillment? Was it dragony enough?
No, 0 out of 10. 0 out of 5.
0 out of 10.
0
You know
out
what?
of 10.
1 out of 10. Actually, there were a few scenes that I really enjoyed, like the skydiving scene and the when he first sees Rav in his dragon form, that he's chasing the car. Like some of the scenes were cute and I enjoyed. 1 out of 10.
0 out of 10 because the one scene that that Auric described that he wanted to do in dragon form when he was totally like in his castle and able to do it and he didn't do it and he's like, I just wanted to coil around him and keep him safe and warm, and it's like, then fucking do it.
Then fucking do it. Like this book, honestly. Okay, so I'll pin in this opinion because we need to give our ratings now. Bantam, X out of 5 stars, and would you live here?
0 out of 5 stars, no.
1 out of 5 stars. Like I said, there are a few moments I enjoyed. Would I live here? No. I mean, it's kind of easy to say yes because it's basically just Earth but with dragons. But it's like, if
The
I gotta be
dragons,
picky about it, these dragons fucking suck.
they do suck and they seem like allergic to transforming, so
They do seem a little transforming. Like, granted, okay, like
the reason I say the reason I say no is because if I were existed in this world and met a dragon and fell in love with it, the dragon would never ever do anything outside of human form with me.
yeah. So there's a couple of nuances here, because I agree. Like, first off, like this book, I feel like would have been so much better if they spent 90% of the time in dragon form instead. Which obviously, we're dragon fans. We want to see dragons. Of course, we would think that, right? But like, it's like my problem with most of the xenofiction subgenre is a lot of the times the vampire is literally just a person, right? The werewolf is literally a person except for a full moon. The dragon is always in human form. The demon just looks like a human. He might have like tiny little horns, whatever, right? A lot of the aliens look like fucking humans all the time too. Fucking Star Trek, Star Wars bullshit, right?
Yeah.
So it's like no people are too scared to experiment with unique body shapes. So, but like it's because everyone just writes human on human, but it's not really human, like big asterisk. Everyone just writes human on human. It's become like whatever. It's a much more interesting story if you actually embrace the otherness of the other, right? In the castle, when fucking names, when Cameron's walking around and he talks to Dieter and he talks to not his name's not Bernard. I can't fucking remember the words, whatever.
It's very
He's
close.
just talking. Yeah, when he's talking to the other dragons in the human form, it's like it's a much better and interesting mental image if he's talking to them while they're dragons. Like, make the castle big enough that it could house dragons, and they're walking around, and like the humans have to like walk on the side so that they don't actually get stepped on or whatever. Right? It's like it's much more interesting dynamic to play with. But I understand in because they wanted to go into hiding after the war. I understand there would be some human form every now and then, especially when they want to go into the city because they do want to remain hidden. But like, I have to imagine like if I was able to be a dragon, even if I had to be hidden from humans for whatever reason, right? I'm human form while I go out and do my shopping, or I go to a restaurant, or I go and do whatever. But the second I come home to my fucking isolated castle in the mountains where the public's not allowed, that has fucking spells put around its perimeter to keep people from looking in, so like no cameras, no satellites, no airplanes. It's like, I'm going full dragon. I'm stretching out full size. I don't want to be in my tiny little human body anymore.
Yeah,
It's like,
100%. There's no real scale given to the castle either, because there's plenty of times where they have transformed into dragons in the castle, at least the secondary cast of characters. And then at one point the characters are in the courtyard playing like fucking Dragon Ball or whatever the fuck it is, and they're in dragon form flying around
mm-hmm.
because like one of them gets chastised for picking up Cameron, and Cameron doesn't have a harness on, so they're
Yeah.
like, oh, that's dangerous. And it's like, so you guys are plenty capable of just flying around in the courtyard of your castle, like you're
Like, it's
but
obviously not a space issue.
yeah.
And it's like, so the dragons are in hiding now, but they weren't in hiding before the big war showdown happened, when the castle would have been built. So it's like, obviously you could have built it to be dragon sized because you weren't in hiding when the castle was built. It's like one of many of my world building choices that I just fucking hate, because it's like you're robbing me of what I came here for. But alas. Any final thoughts before we go into spoiler territory?
Yeah, authors don't ever use the fucking word yummy when describing how sexy someone is.
I'm gonna start calling you yummy.
So Ray and I were talking about that, and it's like, at least for us, that has different context, you know. But like when a dragon is addressing a small human as yummy, that's hot because the dragon could conceivably eat the person. But when a human is calling a dragon in human form yummy, it's like, no, no, he's not.
Alright, so we've bashed it a little bit. We both agree it's one of the worst things ever written for different reasons. But like, people that are listening to this, do you think there's a person out there that could actually enjoy it?
Oh yeah,
Are we
definitely.
being unfair? Is this something that people should actually give a chance?
Yeah, sure. I say even the worst thing I've ever read, which isn't this. It's it's Mating Flight and Tooth and Claw. Um,
Shut the fuck up.
but yeah,
Get
no,
out. Off the podcast. You're booted. Goodbye.
everything should be experienced. The thing is that like, just know your limits. Like if you're I had to take several breaks while listening to this because like I'd get to a part and I'm like, oh Jesus fucking Christ, and I'd pause it and then just like play Oblivion for a little while because I was like, I just need to get the taste of what I just fucking heard out of my mouth, and then I go back to listening to it, and it was a struggle to get through it because, and so if you reach that point, you know, you can just stop listening. But for the podcast, I had to keep going. But yeah, like everything can be given a shot, you know, like just listen to it, and if you hate it, then stop listening to it, and you can listen to us bash it. And if you really like it, then you can email the show and tell us why we're wrong.
Yeah, tell us why this is actually like an amazing work of literature. But no, like I admitted before, I've read more than just this book, and I might review it again just for the sake of the world building, right? That's a very interesting magic system, and there's a couple interesting dynamics, I guess, with some of it, especially in some of the future books when more mages start coming into the play. It's kind of interesting to see their point of views. The author's really good at writing human POV. He really sucks at dragon POV. So it depends what you're looking for. If you listen to us because you want books that actually have and feature dragons, and like that's the important thing. It's like you want dragons, like show me the dragon. It's like, then no, you're gonna hate this. Stay away. But if you're able to be a bit more lenient on it, it might actually be enjoyable for you. It is also worth noting, books 1, 2, 3, 4 are all male pairings. Book 5 is a male dragon with a non-binary human. So
Yeah, I
yay,
want to.
hooray for representation.
I don't know where I want to get into maybe after.
After what?
I don't know.
After we stop
I
recording? Spicy
no.
takes?
It's a bit of a spicy take, and I've been conflicted on how I want to address it. But, um, I'm gay.
Mm.
Uh, Cameron was so unlikable as a main character to me that I was just constantly wishing horrible things upon him. He's a flamingo. He is very ostentatiously gay. It's really kind of aggravating. And the weirdest thing is that his sister is a twin sister who is also gay, and they're constantly talking about how gay they are for their chosen gender, and they're like, oh, I'd totally jump your bone if you were a girl or a guy or whatever. And it's like, it aggravated the crap out of me that they're identical twins, boy and girl, and that they're both gay, and that they can't shut up about it. They were constantly making references to how gay they were, especially the sister. I hated it.
I didn't think he was that flamey, but you and I have different thresholds. And so, listeners, you might have different thresholds too. Just understand that he's somewhere between the level of tolerability between me and Bantam. All right. So this is where we're going to break. 15-second musical number. And when we come back, we're going to get into the spoiler discussion. So if after that amazing selling pitch by both of us, if you want to read it for yourself, then go pick it up. It's not terribly long. And enjoy it, and you can come back and listen to the other half later. Or if not, then just stick around and we'll get into some deeper discussions of some of the notes of what we did or did not like.
Yeah. All right. See
See
you
y'all
after
in
the
a bit.
break. Welcome back to the World of Dragons podcast, where we are going to be spoiling the amazing, illustrious, crazy good fucking book,
Crazy. Good.
Origin.
Uh, yeah. Real fast, just a brief summary for those of you that do not wish to read it but want to know kind of what happens. So Cameron is in Germany on vacation, backpacking across Europe before the start of a new job. While there, he is sniffed out by dragons who can smell his magic he is unaware that he has. After coming to terms with the fact that the dragons still exist, that they did not die out, and that he himself is a mage, uh, and that there are evil mages out there wanting to kidnap him, he proceeds to integrate himself with the Fire Dragon clan and starts to fall in love with the king of the Fire Dragons. He starts to learn magic and has his twin sister and grandma brought to the castle for their safety, as it turns out they are also mages. The ones trying to kidnap the newly discovered mages turn out to be from the Yaki clan, the clan responsible for the terrible Dragon Mage War 500 years or so ago, the war which decimated the mage clans and wiped out most of the dragons and sent them into hiding. The Yaki clan's plans for mages in Book 1 is left vague, using them as stepping stones towards a greater plan which is not revealed as of yet. After being scouted out, the Yaki make another attempt at kidnapping Cameron, which succeeds and enrages the dragon to launch a full-scale assault to save him, decimating the clan's foothold in the village at the foot of the mountains, leaving the dragon clan with both a bright future and a dark shadow looming over them from their past.
All right. I have one huge major issue about that, by the way.
About what?
Uh, the Yaki clan are constantly trying to kidnap Cameron, and the dragons are like, "We can't let him out of our sight." Oh, but let's take a leisure drive into town so that we can pick up pastries and shit. And the Yaki clan fucking set spike strips on the road and then pull up in a fucking white panel van and tasers and shit. And it's like, how many times are you gonna make the same mistake of letting Cameron leave the fucking castle? Like, you have an entire fucking organization of powerful mages trying to kidnap him, and you're like, no, it's fine. One dragon, what was it? One dragon in a car driving with him in the passenger seat, and then another car behind them following along, and they're like, yeah, that's fine. Two people in human form, which, by the way, can't turn into dragons in public and don't really have any special abilities in human form, but that's fine. We'll just fend them off from this, literal army of mages who are constantly trying to kidnap him. The amount of times that Cameron gets put in danger, it's like watching a cutscene and going like, why are you doing this? Why are you doing this? Like, stop going out into fucking public.
Like, did he have to get his own pastries? Could they have not just sent Ravi to get them?
They wait, what?
Like, did Cameron have to go get his own pastries? Could Ravi not have gotten
I
them?
I can't remember the exact reason. I just remember that they were going into town for some fucking reason, and they were mentioning how they were gonna pick up pastries for Auric back at the house. And I think Auric didn't go because like his shoulder and his arm because of his old injury or something like that. I don't know. But the point is that don't it coming from someone who has played so many fucking video games in their life and hates escort quests with a burning passion. Stop taking your escort target out into public. Leave him under lock and key at the castle. Not literally, but I mean like keep him in the fucking castle. Hey, do you need something in town? I'm heading out. Oh, can I come? No, it's too dangerous. There's an entire fucking city of evil mages trying to kill or capture you or
Hold
whatever.
hold on. Do you remember how long the book is? Like time span in world? How long it is from beginning to end?
I think it's like 2 or 3 weeks.
Okay,
Um,
because like I agree with you. Like he should totally be protected a bit more while like all this bullshit's going on. But I can see how someone would get cabin fever, stir crazy, and like he might eventually sneak out anyway because like I just need to get out. Oh my god! Like the castle's great, the dragons are lovely, but I need to get out, right? I can,
maybe
but not that soon.
maybe this is just because I'm a shut-in loser, but if an entire family that owns a giant castle in Germany and has seemingly unlimited money uh, wants, me to be safe, I'm not leaving the fucking house. If you've got food and video games, I have no reason to go outside. I don't know.
It's an escort quest where the escort wants to keep wandering off.
It's the worst escort quest. It's the fucking worst. And your walk speed is slower than theirs, and your run speed is faster than theirs. It's all the worst tropes of escort quests in one thing.
Alright, so what makes this book so terrible? Why do we hate it so much? Why do I hate it so much? Bantam, how much on a scale of 1 to 10, how badly do you hate this book?
9.
9? Okay, so you hate it too. Like, why do we hate this book so
I
much?
hate the book. So I hate the book because I hate all the dialogue, almost all of it. Almost every word out of Cameron's mouth is insufferably annoying because he's a flamingo. And he's constantly talking about how, and this is a real phrase he used, bone meltingly hot Auric is. What does that even mean? And how he's constantly like staring at Auric's crotch and being like, God, I just can't wait to ride my dragon. Shut up. Fucking stupid. Fucking
I
this
don't remember that
Cameron
line. I
Cameron
can't
has
wait to ride my dragon. Holy fuck.
Cameron has he has a light switch in his head. When it's flipped up, it's I can't wait to just go down on you constantly and forever. And when you flip it the other way, it's I want to learn magic. That's that's his whole fucking personality is I'm a mage and I want to learn magic and I can't wait to fuck you relentlessly constantly. At one point Auric is having like literal he's literally throwing things in a rage because um the
Oh
because
yeah,
the
the angry sex.
the ang he's literally angry and he literally asks Cameron to please leave because he doesn't want Cameron to see him like this and he's like super angry and Cameron's just like oh I know what to do and just starts
Grabs your
stripping.
dick.
No, he just starts stripping and Auric's like what are you doing? He's like well you're angry so I'm going to help you relieve that by having angry sex. And it works and it's like it pisses me off that it works. It's like, no, just have some integrity as a writer and have Auric kick him out and be like, no, like this is not the right time for this. Like keep it in your fucking pants for 5 minutes. Um, Auric being the king of dragons, over 500 years old or whatever, and he's such a fucking beta cuck. It's so aggravating how why am I like this every time Cameron's around? And
Oh
it's
my god.
like,
Oh my god.
shut
Oh okay.
the
I have some
fuck up.
thoughts on that too. Holy shit.
And
Like
and Cameron is just like, yeah, you're so hot and sexy, you're my dragon daddy, and I can't wait to fucking suck your dick
he actually
every
calls him
single
Dragon Daddy at a couple points.
several times. and he just can't shut the fuck up about how hot Auric is and describing the dumbest parts of his body. Like at one point he talks about how his nipples are so sharp they could cut through his shirt. And I'm like, what the fuck does that mean? Shut up. Ugh.
It's so
Oh
like
my God.
here's the really weird thing. Like Bantam's thoughts are completely valid. His opinions are also very valid, and everything he said is true. All right, but I want to like devil's advocate a little bit here.
Go for it.
A lot of the stuff that he's complained about, a lot of the terminology like Dragon Daddy and I can't wait to ride my dragon, that stuff, I feel like would not have been so bad if it was done better, if it moved slower, and if they weren't just human on human with a big asterisk on it, right?
Yeah, that's the other problem is it's just literally gay sex.
Like
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 human on human gay sex.
if we change the setting a bit, Auric does not have a human form at all. We just go back to like actual fantasy rather than contemporary fantasy. And the phrase of "I can't wait to ride my dragon" would actually be like a kind of clever
It
eyebrow
would
waggle
be.
moment.
It would be. But the fact that he's still human and it's like, okay, well you didn't ride the dragon, you just rode a normal ass
Yeah.
human.
And the things like Dragon Daddy is like a little cringe, like very slightly. But like I have to be completely honest, if I lived in a fantasy world where there was like a big dragon or a big naga or a big recently I've been getting really into fucking skull dogs or skull demons, whatever you want to call them, right? Like Elias Ainsworth from the anime Ancient Magic Spread. Them slightly, like you shush. Um if I was in a world where there was like a 9 foot tall one of those, I could see myself calling them daddy at some point. It kind of depends on their personality, which is the other big problem. It's Ulrich's personality. Ulrich is not a daddy kind of character, and so calling him Dragon Daddy does come off a little insincere and a little cringe, right?
Every single character in this book, beside Auric and Cameron, is likable and well written, or except Cameron and his sister. Uh, every other dragon in the clan is well written and believable as
Yeah,
people and as dragons and in the setting. Auric and Cameron are like fanfic fucking OCs dropped into the middle of this fucking story, and it is infuriating.
yeah. The problem with Ulrich is the author wanted to write him as a dark and mysterious, brooding character, while at the same time, making him very warm and loving, and I'm going to protect Cameron with everything I have. And you can't flip between those two and not have it be weird.
There, there was one point where one of RX retainers is like, "Hey, you're a fucking king. Do you think you might want to dress up with some color? You look like a moody vampire." And he's like, "I do not." And then he like looks at himself and he goes, "Oh my god, I do."
Yeah, and the other people in the room started laughing because it's very true, right?
Yeah,
It's like he his dark past is that he was wounded in the Dragon War. His dad died to the same spell. It's like they don't really go into the details of the spell. Imagine just like
there was a
a
spell
big
cast at him
a
and
big
his
green
dad.
lightning bolt that goes through the dad and still hits him. So the dad absorbs most of it, dies. He absorbs some of it and only loses the ability to fly. Right. So it's like he blames himself for that, and he should have done better at protecting his clan and the mages, and he should have wiped out the Yaki when he had the chance. Like it's not a dark enough backstory to be as broody as he is, especially after 500 years.
The other thing that really the only times that I rolled my eyes and was like, this is completely unbelievable for all the other characters was every single time that Cameron jumped his bones, and whenever they would do something naughty or whatever, they would publicly and loudly announce it to the rest of the dragons. And you know that meme with the guys all sitting in the movie theater bored, and then the second thing they're all leaning forward and fist pumping and screaming? It's
Mm-hmm.
that's the whole castle's reaction. Hey, I just got laid. Yeah! And it's like, come on.
They're
Like,
just so happy for their king because they love their king so much.
yeah, and the king is constantly waffling on like whether or not he should be happy about this, and he's like, "Oh, I love Cameron so much, but what if Cameron falls in love with someone else, and I
Right. Okay.
can't let that happen." And but
Right. All
I
right. I need to interject really fast here because another big problem I have with this book, and this plays a major role into what Bantam's trying to get into here, is this book plays with the concept of fated mates. There is one person out for you, and you have to find them. And when you do, you are destined to be together, and there's nothing you can do about it. I fucking hate that trope so much, and I'm gonna get more into that later. But that's exactly why Ulrich is like, he's falling in love with Cameron, but it's like, I can't claim him. What if he's somebody else's fated mate? So he should go around and play with all the other dragons too. Yet I feel this deep burning desire to keep him for myself. Like, not realizing... When they tell Cameron about the fated mate thing, they explain, oh, when we find our mate, we know it. But Ulrich is like denying it the whole fucking time. I thought you're supposed to know it. It's supposed to be obvious. You're supposed to know that you found him, but he's like denying it the whole time. Like, I can't keep him for myself. That's not fair.
It's his self-loathing.
Everybody else knows that he belongs to Ulrich.
It's
like
his
everyone else can
self-loathing,
see it.
He also feels like it would be unfair to the rest of his clan because the way they basically describe it is a bunch of sex slavering fucking dragons crawling around the castle. Mage, like just fucking looking for mages to fuck. And finally a mage shows up and he's like, I can't keep him all to myself. And it's like the rest of the dragons are like, no, like that's your baby. Like you have him. And he's like, oh, I can't. And it's like, dude, just fuck him. Just, it's yours. Just, like, at no point does Cameron show any romantic interest in any of the other dragons aside from maybe stroking, what's his name, Ravi?
Hmm?
Ravi's fucking neck when he's in dragon form. And he's like, whoa, dragons. And it's like, dude, you'd have that too if you turned into a dragon at all, ever. But no, he can't see my horrible scar. And just... the fucking personality, it's like too... I'm so flustered because I hated it so much.
You are what I normally am on these episodes, and it's amazing being on the other side watching it happen.
So bad. It's so bad. The amount of times that I literally like just paused and went and just like, because I started listening to this on the plane ride home from Florida from visiting Dilettante. And I'm sitting in the window seat next to these two girls, and I'm like constantly turning the audio down because even though I have over the ear cupped, noise canceling headphones, I couldn't be sure that some of this wasn't going to be like heard because the girl next to me was reading a book. And I don't know what book she was reading because I didn't want to just stare at her book, but I kept turning it down. And I would pause it every once in a while. There was
Bantam
one point
listening to erotica on the plane and getting shameful about it.
There was one point where I wanted to, where I guess the girl sitting next to me in the middle seat wanted to look out the window because she looked over in my direction, and I immediately paused, and I went, "What?" And she goes, "Nothing. I'm looking out the window." And I was like, "Oh." Also another funny thing, on the way to Florida, I did try to start the book on my way to Florida, and the first the second plane, because I had 4 flights total because stupid connecting and shit. The second flight from Minneapolis to Florida, the guy who there was no one in the middle seat, but the guy in the aisle seat was German. He was sitting in the aisle seat. His wife was sitting in the aisle seat across from him, and their son was sitting behind them. They were German as fuck. Like he was dressed like almost like comically German, and they were constantly talking amongst themselves in German the whole time, and that's where like they're first describing Arik and talking about like being in Germany and shit, and I just keep looking over at this guy and I'm like, yeah, he's pretty handsome. This could be Arik. But one of the other things that I wanted that really pissed me off about this book was when he first meets Arik. He's in Germany backpacking, and this older gentleman who is very clearly rich just starts dragging you around to all these expensive, fancy places and buying you gifts nonstop.
Okay, hold on 1 second. You make it sound a lot more out of the blue than it is. He was in Europe. There's a dragon festival going on, and some of the dragons are out in the human form, obviously, at the festival, kind of just enjoying it. It's a party. Let's get some snacks. Let's get some beer. Let's have a good time, right? One of them, Ravi, smells Cameron because they can smell magic. Calls the other dragons back at base, saying, "Yo, I'm smelling a mage. Get your ass down here. We gotta find her." They think it's a her at first, and then eventually Ravi's like, I found him," and like clings to his arm or his leg or something, speaking German, and Cameron's looking down at him like, what the fuck is going on? So Arik comes to pry Ravi off him and apologizes, and like, oh, sorry about my friend, he's enjoying the festival a little too much. and as an apology, let me take you out for like some wine or something. Maybe get
Yeah,
some
and they
food.
go to a very expensive fancy restaurant where they give the guests blankets because it's like a restaurant built inside a cave, so I guess it's cold and
It gets a
drafty.
little chilly, yeah.
So they give guests these really fancy handmade expensive blankets, which he says that the blankets are so comfortable and well made that guests usually buy them, and he's like, oh, I can't afford this, and he's like, oh, I've already purchased it for you, and it's like, at this point I would be like, I need to get the fuck out of here. I'm about to get kidnapped. Like, but he's
Several
just
times
like,
he actually got kidnapped almost.
well, yeah, but like he's just so like, yeah, sure, fuck it, whatever happens. I guess maybe I'm just not enough of a free spirit to appreciate it, or I don't know. But like there are plenty of times during the beginning of the book and the Dragon Festival where I'd be like, yeah, I'm gonna be calling the police.
Okay, so one thing I want to like say here on that is it comes with the genre. When you write a romance and an erotica, there's a lot of concessions you have to make because a lot of the stuff would not work or be legal or be comfortable in real life, right? A lot of things that would be like red flaggy are accepted in the genre. For example, like you just said, how you're like, oh my god, I'm gonna get murdered, I gotta get out of here. You, for the genre, your main character needs to accept this as happening because that's the only way the romantic story can unfold. Like a lot of I haven't seen a rom com in so long, but like think of like most romantic movies. If
Oh,
you try to
I watch
watch
a
it
lot of rom
complete,
coms.
if you try to watch them completely seriously, you'll find a lot of red flags where like normally people would back out because this guy's come around too strong, or like the dark and broody mystery guy like is not putting enough effort in. It's like why would you stick around with him, right?
Yeah,
Is it?
you really don't watch enough rom coms.
I don't.
It's usually the formula is usually a very subtle meeting, and then they meet up again, and it's like, oh my gosh, they fancy meeting you here again, and then a little bit of a meet cute, and then they kind of start talking, and then most rom-coms will have like a third interaction where they're like, all right, this is crazy, like what are we doing here,
All
and
right,
then they start to get together.
all right.
But
Well, Bantam, you're right. I don't watch a lot of rom-coms, so let me be a bit more blunt about it, okay? Your personal sexual fantasy of meeting a giant naga, or in my case, like a werewolf escorting me, whatever, finding you, pinning you against the wall in a dark alley, and taking you home, absolutely does not fly and would not be possible in real life at all because that's considered like rape and kidnapping and whatever. But yet, in your personal fantasy, you would love that. That would be great.
absolutely.
You would read the shit out of this book, and so you need to build a character that's not going to see the warning signs of I'm probably going to get kidnapped and brought home to his castle.
Unfortunately, he's human.
That is the biggest problem here.
That is the biggest problem here. If so how I would rewrite the intro is like maybe he's on the outskirts of the party, like at a he's trying to get away from the hustle and bustle of the inner city or whatever, and he's out in the countryside and he sees Ravi in dragon form and they see him and they transforms back into a human and he's like, oh shit,
No, no,
oh
no, no,
fuck.
no. If you're gonna have him see Ravi as dragon form, I say don't stop there. Ravi smells him and starts running towards him as a dragon, and there's the oh fuck moment. There's a
Yeah,
dragon running right at me.
yeah, and then maybe he scoops him up and takes him to the castle, and then there you go. Like,
The
I don't know.
dragon picks you up in his front claws, starts rambling in German. You're like, what the fuck is going on? And he just flies
I
up to
just
the castle.
there were a couple times in the intro, like I said, where I would be calling the police, and I wouldn't even get to the point where I'm in their fucking car driving to a castle.
Mhm.
Like,
I
nope.
mean, to be fair, he tells his sister like, "Hey, I'm gonna go meet this
Oh, that's
dreamy
true.
hunk
Yeah,
at the castle. If you don't hear from me in 6 hours, call the police. Here's
call
his
the
address."
police. She's like, okay, well, I
But you
want to
go get
hear.
that nookie.
Yeah, you go get that nookie. Like his sister is endearingly annoying. Um, some of the stuff she says, I could see as like a super outwardly, openly gay lesbian girl would say these things, but at the same time, like I actually liked the sister character, and I think the moment that she finally clicked for me, and I ended up really liking her, was when like he's on the phone with her and a mage breaks into her house to kidnap her, like over in America, and she's like, "Oh fuck this! He just broke my motherfucking window. I'm gonna go get Clarabelle or whatever the fuck the bat's name is."
She
And
named her bat. Yeah,
she named her bat after like a human
baseball
name,
bat to be clear
a
to
baseball
listeners.
bat, yeah. And so keep in mind she is around the same age as Cameron, so
Around the
she's
same age, he's a twin.
twin. So she's the same age as Cameron, so not like. Did they even say how old Cameron was?
Yes, it got
Whatever.
mentioned once,
Point
but I
is
can't
that
remember.
like probably 25 or less, right? So
Master's
and
history in engineering, so probably
an
slightly older than
ancient an
25.
ancient order of all powerful mages breaks into her fucking house, and she beats the shit out of him with a baseball bat and duct tapes him, and she's like, oh yeah, do you want to send some dragons here to interrogate him? And then when the dragons get there to interrogate him and they can't get anything out of him, she's like, oh, let me go get the bat, I'll get some shit out of him. And then the mage just fucking kills himself with magic. And I'm like, yeah, she's kind of a fucking badass.
She
But
is a
then
badass.
every time she's talking about sex, it's like, God damn, this girl has no fucking filter. And she says
She has
some of the
zero filter. You
cringiest.
know what? I love her for not having a filter because I wish I had the confidence to do that.
Yeah. One of the other things I want to point out, and I'm only going to touch on this a little bit because like I said, the narration doesn't really need a whole section of the episode, but the narration was really good. We both agree it was. That there's one thing that bothered me about the narration. So he's doing voices for everybody, and his German voices, he not only managed to give every German dragon a German accent, but it was different enough that you can understand who they all were. And I really liked that. He actually did a really good job with some of the girl characters too. However, uh,
Oh, I'm not lying when I said he's my favorite narrator. That's why I looked up his other stuff.
yeah,
That's how I found this.
hearing him do all the German accents, totally fine. I was listening along. I was like, yep. And then he gets to Cameron's grandmother. And
Harmony.
Cameron's, huh?
Harmony, or
Yeah.
whatever.
His grandmother is Korean or
Yeah, Korean.
Asian. Yeah, Korean. And the accent he gave for her was the most racist sounding accent I've ever heard
Oh,
anyone
because
give an
you are
Asian
good
character.
grandson. You call me more often and tell me about whatever stuff like that. Like I don't know how good I
What
can do
Ray
it.
just did is not even half as racist as it sounds in the book. What are you talking about? It was like, holy shit. Like,
Take
could you give that a little bit more of a subtle age? Like, you can be subtle. There's no other Korean characters in this entire fucking book. You don't have to make her sound like she just learned English yesterday. It was like, holy shit. Oh my god.
it was. I thought it was pretty funny.
It was funny, but it was like, as soon as she started talking, I did like that, like that thing where you put your hand up to your eye and you look away and go, holy shit.
Uh,
Oh my god. But that's it. Like, aside from that, the narration was great.
you get an audio system.
I don't know.
Don't
You'll
know.
probably
Say
say
something that
something that
triggers
will
you.
trigger me again. As of right now, I'm out of fuel, but
All right.
we'll see what happens when you
Okay.
find something else.
So real quick. I'm gonna take a small aside. I'm gonna talk about a couple of not a couple. I want to talk about the concept of realism versus indulgent fantasy. Because that's where a lot of this book's problems come from, is the problem that it is trying to be very indulgent, but it's not indulging in the proper way to appeal to me and Bantam, and probably to most of you also. For example, like I said earlier on, how a lot of this stuff would make a lot more, would go down a lot smoother if they were actually dragons rather than being human form all at the same time. You can usually get away with a lot more in indulgent fantasy because the people that are going to be reading that have already bought into your concept and they're not going to be weirded out by some of the choices you make. They're not going to find a lot of the stuff you do cringe because this is stuff that they like. Another good example, I guess, I can think of is I read another erotic book that involved a Naga species. Very unfortunately, they had human upper halves, but it was a rape fantasy. All right, part of the storyline was that in order to grant access to their holy lands or something to this military base, they would get some of the female soldiers would be given to them. They'd be stripped of all the possessions, including their clothes, released into the jungle, and then they would get chased and hunted down. And the idea was whichever Naga found them gets to keep them. And so it was a rape fantasy, and it was really weird. And I remember reading it being like, can they get away with writing this stuff? Holy shit. Because, like, some of the scenes, oh my fucking god, right? But the people that would pick that up and want to read it That's what they went for. It was indulgent to their fantasies. This was a safe space to experience their fantasies where they're not going to get judged by other people, get hurt themselves, or hurt other people. So for
So
this
you're
book, go ahead.
I was going to say, so you're asking how good of an indulgent fantasy this is.
It could be very good indulgent fantasy for some people.
It's bad. It's bad.
It,
It's
it's
bad. It's bad for everyone, and here's why. Because if your fantasy is having male-on-male gay sex in Germany, congratulations, you also have to take the baggage of it being a dragon and having a
yeah,
subplot of a
that
bunch of weird
I was
mages.
going to get into that. That's the problem. Is like a lot of this would have been better if they played into the dragon thing a bit more, and that's
Yeah.
why I think this is really weird and really bad, and we don't like it because it didn't really
It-
indulge in the proper way.
Yeah.
I thought you missed when you like Zam is laughing in the Discord, right?
Male-on-male gay sex in Germany, yeah.
When you said that, I was gonna cut him like good for you. That's possible. You can go do that.
But the point is that they tiptoed back and forth. They played hopscotch with two different plots. It's like this book had a really decent story involving the mages and the war, and then it kept getting sidelined for erotica, and the erotica was really badly written, and it really honestly feels like two people wrote this book.
But so with the whole indulgent fantasy versus realism thing, it's like I was gonna tie that back into the concept of fated mates, right? Fated mates is a very weird trope. I'm gonna call it a very dangerous trope because it makes a lot of people roll their eyes. I rolled my eyes earlier, and in the Discord, Aspirant also rolled his eyes. It's a very bad trope generally, but if it appeals to you, if Ulrich was a dragon 100%, didn't really have a human form, and we played into that with him being very possessive and very domineering. You know, the idea of the dragon at the festival sees him, grabs him, carries him back, and now you're now at the dragon's castle and you can't leave. We get a kind of a Beauty and the Beast kind of situation where you're a prisoner in the castle and you learn to love it. Get some Stockholm syndrome thrown in there and all that, right? It's like that becomes a lot more palatable to people like us because that's kind of something that we like and it's a bit more indulgent to our fantasies. And so I guess I'm very bad at making my points. I guess my point is that we can sit here and bash this book because we don't think it was good and it was terrible. But there are probably people out there who are like, you know what? This is really cool. I love the idea of a big, tall, somewhat broody, but very handsome German sugar daddy kind of just like adopts me. So it's not forceful. It's more of an adoption. Invites me into his family, and I get to live in the castle with him and all his friends, and we get to play Halo and D&D and stuff. Like, you know, there's probably people out there that speaks to very, very strongly, and that's like their dream, right? And so I feel like we need to just acknowledge that and be a bit more gentle with how we tear this apart. As much fun as we're having with it, right?
I wanted to bring up one other thing that aggravated me now that I remember it, and that's more about Arick's personality. The amount of times that he does the cringy, like Cameron will make a suggestion and then Arick will just be like, "Whatever you want, darling," and it's like, holy shit, you're a king?
Yeah, that's
How?
the thing. It's like the author wrote Ulrich with like no backbone, and that's because that's who he's trying to appeal to. The kind of person, it's the indulgent fantasy of the person that wants to be taken to a castle by the king of the fire dragons, and he gets everything he wants. Like the king is subservient enough that the person that wants to pick up and read this book gets everything they want, which kind of ties into the fact that it was asked earlier in the Discord. I'm going to come back around to it now. Is the main character Mary Sue? Kinda. It's not as bad as some of the other like magical academy kind of books. Like Harry Potter is a bad example, but like the Sorcerer's Apprentice that Disney did, that was a really, really bad Mary Sue. Being he was the only one that could cast magic without the ring, right? So he's not a Mary Sue in a very direct form like that, but he is Mary Sue in the sense that because of his mechanical engineering degree, he can see magic in a way that other people can't. He sees how the pieces go together, and he is the one that comes up with the counter spells to break the enchantments and figures out how to put these things together, and he's able to recreate spells that have been lost for hundreds of years because these clans all handed down their spells through oral tradition, and when they were wiped out, that a lot of that magic was lost. But he can recreate it because he can see how these pieces fit together. So he's kind of Mary Sue in that sense. And so that again just kind of ties into the kind of person that's really gonna see themselves as Cameron and enjoy it.
Yeah, I was thinking of something else that aggravated me, and I've kind of forgotten it.
Yeah. Now you
Uh,
see my problem when I go on tangents and then you have some thoughts, and I want to let you have your thoughts, but then I forget what I was going for.
yeah. Uh, oh right, yeah. You were talking about Mary Sue, and
Hmm.
how much of a fucking Mary Sue Cameron is. So toward the end of the book, the Yaki clan actually do kidnap him. They set spike strips and blow out the tires of the car he's shouldn't be in because he shouldn't be outside of the fucking castle. But they capture him and they, duct tape him up and they hog tie him and they throw him into a fucking concrete compound or whatever in a room that's like full of just junk. And then they just leave him there and literally no ropes, no chains, just duct tape, and they leave him there and they go off to plan for when the dragons are going to come rescue him so they can kill all the dragons. Cameron breaks out of the duct tape because of course, I mean, like, that's easy to do. They actually do describe how he breaks out of the thing, and it's actually what you're supposed to do if you ever get duct taped. uh, and so he breaks out of the duct tape and then he's searching the room and he finds bullets and cleaning chemicals and all this other shit, and he starts MacGyvering fucking smoke bombs and shit, and he manages to escape the compound on his own. And I'm like, how stupid are you as an evil organization of mages that supposedly have magical spells? You can't magically paralyze him so that he can't do anything. You don't magically put him in a box so he can't get out, but he has, air and all this other shit. They
Uh,
just leave him duct taped in a room. And then he MacGyvers a solution to get out pretty easily by finding all these cleaning chemicals and bullets so he can use the gunpowder and shit. And they just no supervision. He's even talking about how much noise he made trying to break free, and he gets up and he's walking around the room inventorying all the shit that they left in there with him. And he's like, oh, no one's coming to get me. I guess I'll just continue to make fucking bombs. And it's like, all right, what? And also Mary Sue, because like he's only learned how to use magic like a couple days ago, I think, in the context of the story.
if
And
it's longer,
he,
the book didn't do a good job of letting us know how long it was.
yeah. So if it was longer, then the book didn't need to make that clear. But these are all trained mages. They know they're mages and they've been practicing spells. And he has a couple days under his belt and he learned how to fucking blow a candle out, whatever. And he fucking just like solos all these dudes with spells. Like just fucking and like even the dragons are like, my god, how did you do that? And it's like, okay, it's explained that he gets all his power from the bond that he has with Arik, but it's like he hasn't practiced any of this shit. He just pulls on this great wealth of power and then just casts spells and just knocks people all over the place. And then the dragons come in and they're like, even though the enemies were clearly waiting for this, the dragons show up and they're like, we need to be careful about this. We don't want to go in there because it'll be a kill box. And then the very next paragraph, they're like, and then they descended into the courtyard and started killing mages. And it's like, um, isn't that exactly what they were wanting? Like that was the kill box and you just jumped into it? I don't know. It was it was something.
It was something.
It was something.
The author had a
It
couple good ideas, but they know how to make it flow in the sense of a story, so a lot of finer details got lost.
Yeah. Like I said, I've watched I read Knight's Fire, which you know was a little fucked up in its own way because the dragon took human form, but it took the form of like a 14-year-old boy and this
It
like
wasn't
30-year-old.
14. Okay, hold on. The dragon was of age and took the form of a human who was of age. Granted, it probably looked younger because it was a femboy. Its greatest sin was that during the first sex scene, they played the whole supervision card of like, oh, what's happening? It feels so good.
I
Which
don't know what's
which
happening.
which
Yeah.
honestly feels really icky, and I didn't like it. But then
Yeah.
they went back on it, and afterwards, after the sex had happened, the knights are like, I need to make sure you understand what happened, so I'm not just taking advantage of you. And the dragon's like, oh no, I know about sex. Don't worry, the dragons in my cave did sex all the time. It's like, so
We
it's
do sex
okay.
all the time.
It's okay. I'm mature and know what I was doing. But in the moment, it's like, oh, why does this feel so good? Oh, what's going? Oh. Right.
It was a couple months ago I re-listened to the Night's Fire episode because I remember just cracking up and laughing so hard while recording that episode because while I was listening to the book, the sex came out of fucking nowhere. It was like chapter after chapter after chapter of serious actual story, and then bam, sex. Hardcore fucking sex with a dragon that supposedly doesn't know what's happening to him. And I was like, what the fuck? And at least this one, I could see it coming a mile away. Still hated it, but yeah, I would have loved it. This book would have been a fucking 7 out of 10 if, like, I think they had sex like 5 times. If like at least 4 of them were with the dragon form.
Yeah,
This was it. You know what this felt like to me? This felt like someone telling me, "Hey, like I got this really cool like book, and I want you to read it, and it's got these 3 things that you love." And then I read it, and I'm like, "Where are those 3 things? Oh, I forgot to put them in, but
it's
I
it's
got
it's
you to
my
read it."
it's the meme that I really love recently, where the cat's looking down at the. It's like, hey, here's a dragon erotica book. Looks
Looks
inside.
inside
Human
humans.
erotica. Human erotica. I
Yeah,
need to make that. Tris needs to
yeah,
make
I
that
need
meme
to,
for us.
and yeah,
But so I'm going to talk about 2 things at once here. All right. So one of the things I want to talk about eventually, we're going to like. I had a small list of like the good stuff. Here's some of the good things I like. I'm going to touch on one really fast because it's kind of important to what we were talking about just now. At one point, uh, Cameron goes skydiving with Ravi, and Ravi's in his dragon form, and the concept is, hey, jump off this cliff and I'll catch you, and it's going to be great fun, right? And honestly, it sounds like great fun. Bantam, would you jump off a cliff and let me catch you?
yes,
Yes, thank you. Um, but when he catches him, it's described as he catches him in his arms, not his claws, and is holding him to his chest. So I'm imagining like the dragon hugging, Dragon Ravi is hugging Cameron to his chest, and to me, that kind of paints a picture of the size difference between the two, not being that big, like obviously bigger than a horse, but like smaller than a semi truck, right? They never gave actual measurements, but to be able to fit into the arms and be held against the chest, that's kind of the size that I envision. And the thing is, if that's the size difference between the dragon and human, that's totally doable in the bedroom, guys. You can make that fit, especially if you got magic. Come on.
yeah,
Do you need to have all the sex between the human forms? Come on. That's boring. Zem's on the same page as me. And like
yeah.
even then, get creative. Do a body job. Let's go.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I feel weirdly relieved getting all that out. Like it
Yeah.
was been building all day. So let me tell you about my sad day today. I woke up at 8 o'clock in the morning and immediately started listening to because I was like 1/5 of the way through the book, and I was like, well, we're gonna record tonight, so I'm gonna listen to the rest of the book. And I just played video games all day. And it like the frustration and aggravation of listening to this book started to well up in me, and it just kept like every once in a while Ray would walk into my room and ask me a question, and I'd pause the book, and I think outwardly I was like, oh my gosh, I keep getting interrupted, but I was like, thank God I keep getting interrupted, because I was like, any chance that like I had to go let the puppies back in because they were out in the backyard, and I was like, oh, thank God I can pause it and I have a reason to. And then I went back to playing my game, and I think it was like an hour into playing, and I was like, oh, I should probably hit play and listen to it. And I was like, ugh.
Alright, so let's talk about a couple good things about the book. First off, the biggest good thing is Ravi. Ravi himself. Ravi's adorable. I love Ravi.
Yeah, Ravi is best character in the whole book.
It's like the initial scene where you see him and he's like running after the car because he's just so excited that they found a mage and that he's there in the castle. It's like that's such like a sweet endearing mental image to me, and just his whole personality.
Yeah, they were talking about how because that happened while Cameron was in the car being driven to the castle, and like they round a corner and he sees a dragon flying around, and Arik is like, "Scheiße."
I told him
Like,
not to do
I
this.
told him not to do this. And when he lands, he's like, oh, I just figured it was best to rip the band-aid off. And Cameron was just, like kid with star eyes.
Mhm.
And then the
And
car
then
continues driving, and then Ravi's chasing after the car, and he's like, I could feel the thudding of like the ground every time his paws hit it, and it's like, yes, good.
yeah, and then when Ulrich takes Cameron inside and he tells Ravi to put his car away, he just lifts it up and carries it in his hands
And
like
he's
a
like,
like
if
a
you scratch
like
it,
a
you buy me a new one.
yeah, like a little kid carrying a giant toy car. It's like that's also a really cute image. Like, come on,
Yeah.
more stuff like that's like it would have been so much better if you just used your fucking dragons. Oh my god, that is really the my biggest complaint is just that it's like you didn't actually make it a dragon book.
The
You were
the the
you were this close to greatness.
the South Park R.R. Martin thing. The dragons are coming. I swear to God, just hang in there. The dragons are coming, and it's like,
Yeah, because like every single one of my favorite scenes on this list I have here is when the dragon was actually out. I loved Ravi carrying the car. I loved the jumping off the cliff skydiving thing. Like that was fun. It's like
when the
what a
dragons
mental
attacked the
image.
compound to rescue Cameron and were biting dudes in half and fucking tearing shit up. And it's like,
Juice
yes.
box.
No,
The
there was no
dragon
juice boxing.
the dragon sports like the weird like little Quidditch amalgamation they had like that was like interesting and that was good world building. Here's a sport that dragons would play with their mages, right? It's like
Yeah, the magic instructor who's trying to teach Cameron actually said that it melted her heart to in a good way to see because it was two dragons against Cameron and another dragon, and Cameron, because he can't fly yet, was using air spells to keep the ball up. So like he was using his magic to play a sport that typically it's implied typically dragons play. And she's like, to see mages and dragons playing a game together, she goes, I don't think I've ever even seen anyone use the
yeah,
court
because
or
it's
the
supposed to be
because
like
they've
two teams of however many, and they don't have enough dragons after the war, and they can't replenish the numbers because they can't find new mages.
yeah,
Right. By the way, listeners, the dragons can only have kids with mages; they can't have kids with themselves.
yeah,
So
that
there's
seems
a lot to unpack there. We'll get to
that's
that in a second. So
that
they
seems like
haven't.
the writer going, I really want to fuck a dragon and I want them to want me so bad they can't even have kids unless I'm
Again,
involved.
it's indulgent fantasy. Like, here's a reason why the dragons need to completely be into humans and not themselves, right? Increase your chances of getting a dragon husband because they need. But yeah, so the field has not been used for like 500 years, ever since the war. Just because after the war, with the decimation of the dragon clans and the mage clans, just sheer long lifespan level of depression that lasts for like a century, right? And then you just don't have the numbers to do it anymore. So the field is overgrown, hasn't been used, and so it is such a heartwarming and endearing scene for it to suddenly be used again. It's like any scene where the dragons were actually dragons was such a good scene. I really like the concept of the dragon hoods, which we'll also get to in a second. It's like, use your fucking dragons. But yeah, anyway, so dragons can't have kids with other dragons, right? There are male dragons, there are female dragons, and they can't breed with each other. It must be with a mage. Mages are predominantly female. So they don't know why. It might be a genetic thing, like women just carry the magic gene easier or something. Uh, Male mages are very rare. So here's another like bingo checkmark list on what makes Cameron so special. Male mages are very rare. In their own memory, the only time they've ever seen a male mage has been when they have a twin sister. So a lot of times dragons will then bond and mate with their mage companion because fated mates and that whole nonsense, right? And they'll have a kid because the sex all happens in human form. And I don't remember if they touched on it. The mage woman gives birth to a human child that then just turns into a dragon around like puberty level or something. I don't know.
Well, I can tell you right now what they didn't touch on, which I was like constantly wanting to be like, okay, and how, was when after they did the bonding ceremony between Arik and Cameron, uh, they were talking about their eventual kids, and I'm like,
That
how?
that was totally touched on. It was brought up very early on, which is why you miss a lot of stuff by playing video games at the same time. They have basically a magical incubator that takes 12 mages to keep powered on for the 9-month cycle that allows same-sex couples to have kids.
Well,
So
then they're not going to be able to have kids because they only have three mages. No, I guess they do. They do mention that there are other mages. They're
yeah,
just
and I think they start to borrow some mages from the Ice Clan so they can have enough because they really need to replenish numbers and whatnot. And also remember the next 4 books they're going to find like more mages too because each book is a dragon getting their mate. So they'll eventually get to have kids. Don't worry about it. We're going to get whatever. But yeah. So it's a weird contrivance. Dragons must have kids with the mages. It's really weird. I want to see like how it all started out. Like what came first, the dragon or the mage? Like evolutionary and through history, like how did this like happen? Like that just feels like really weird. But again, indulgent fantasy. Here's a reason why your dragons can be so fucking in love with you. The dragons are all pansexual because they don't know what gender their mate is going to be, and with fated mates, when you find them, you're stuck with them. You cannot fight against fate. You will 100% be in love with your fated mate. Doesn't matter who they are. I think it's either book 2 or 3, I can't remember, but one of the plot points is that the dragon finds the mage, knows he's his mate, but the mate hates dragons, absolutely despises them, and it kind of breaks the dragon's heart, but he's still there for him because it's my fated mate. Maybe one day he'll turn around, but I'm gonna just hold on hope, and I'm just gonna just keep following him around and keep him safe and do what I can to be nice to him, which is also really like fucking like, right? But I want to say cucky, but it's not really cucky, but it's very close, very sigma,
Yeah.
beta cuck, whatever, right? All these fun buzzwords the kids are throwing out these days, but yeah, so that's it. Dragons and mages. Alright, dragonhoids. I actually kind of like how they tackle dragonhoids. It's not super like different or clever. It's just it's a dragonhoid, right? Because in all fantasy things, dragons always have a horde, so usually like a pile of gold, or whatever. And so the dragons in this world, they also have hordes. It's not necessarily money. It's usually a thing. In this book, Ulrich's horde is books. It's a library. Cameron Fowler says, like, I know how Belle felt now because, behold, library, knowledge, read books. Amazing, right? And I think that's just pretty cool. Do you want me to tell you what the other dragon's hordes are?
Yeah.
That I can remember at least?
Well, before you tell me about that, I find it really hard to believe because when he mentions when he first sees Arc's sword, he says, "Now I know how Belle must have felt," and he's like, "Belle, what do you mean?" And he's like, "Beauty and the Beast." He's like, "What?" And it's like, how do you have a horde of 35,000 books and you've lived for 500 years and you don't know Beauty and the Beast?
Yeah, you guys play Halo and play D&D, but you haven't watched any Disney
telling me
cartoons?
you haven't seen anything Disney? Whatever. It's one of those opportunities for the author to like, oh, you silly dragon, let me tell you about a thing that everybody reading this knows.
Yeah, they were trying really hard to have some of the what I call culture clash between dragon and human, even though they were barely dragons, but they didn't do a really good job of it. But yeah, Ravi's horde is games. It's card games, board games, video games. He like owns every single console, every single game ever made, and that kind of stuff. One of the other dragons, I can't remember if it's Dieter or the other one. One of them is musical instruments and just music in general. And I honestly can't remember what the fourth one is. I forgot what that one's horde is. But the point is, like, each horde is like just a thing that they love. Like if like my horde would be, I guess board games and card games. Honestly, I'm basically Ravi. Let's be real.
Yeah.
Bantam's horde is random ass knickknacks like all his Skylanders.
Listen, all right. First of all, Skylanders are not random ass knickknacks. I have every single Skylander ever fucking made. All right, sir. And also, no, my horde would be Lego sets.
Variations on the concept of a statuette.
Yes, there you go.
Whether you build it yourself or not.
That's true. I still have my Horizon Zero Dawn statue and my Watchdog statue. I love those things.
And the fact that my statues stay in the boxes gives you great pain.
It brings me a lot of pain. Yeah. Ray never takes anything out of the box. It's infuriating.
I might when I get a more permanent residence, but I just don't want to deal with unpacking it and then having to figure out a way to transport it later.
Once we get it, once we move, once we're
also opening it hurts the resale value.
Yeah, once we move and we're settled, I'm going to grab one of your collector's boxes and I'm going to rip it up. And I'm going to take the statue out and I'm going to put it on a shelf. And then I'm going to go, all right, one down. And then I'm going to make you do the rest of them. I'm going to stand over you.
Bantam bought a Funko Pop of Ka the Python from Disney Jungle Book. That's been out of print for so long that it's instead of like what they normally cost, like $15.
$15, yeah.
Yeah, I could have sworn it was like
I paid $75,
like 110 or something. I could have sworn it was more than that. But the point is, he bought an out of print Funko Pop, and he opened the box, and I died because that thing is out of all the things to be like don't hit the resale value, something out of print like that goes for at least 4 or 5 times the amount. Like sure, it's a dumb little Funko Pop, but still, Come on, that's something you keep closed. Jesus Christ.
It is still selling for $60 on eBay.
Maybe I'll get one and keep it closed forever.
Yeah. Also, I did another thing with Funko Pops that hurt somebody. I don't remember.
He bought a different one of Call the Python. This one is colored on Mowgli, and he
Yeah,
cut off Mowgli's head
I
to put
cut
on
off.
the head of. He bought another Funko Pop of the bird character from My Hero Academia. I forget his name. The shadow dude with the whatever starts with a K.
Yeah.
Cut off his head and put it on the
First of all, there was no
coil
cutting.
pile.
There was just ripping because it has like a ball and socket joint, and so I popped.
He defaced the Funko Pops to fuse them and be like, look, now it's Bantam being held like
Yep, that's well, because I planned on painting it, and then I just didn't get that far. For the
Bantam. I'll have
audience,
you know that's very cringe.
I'm posting it in the chat. Ignore how dusty it is. But yeah, I bought two Funko Pops. I broke both of them and then put them back together into a new Funko Pop that I was eventually going to turn into me.
Get back on track. We're pretty much done with this episode. Before we close out, Bantam, say something nice about the book.
It was short. As far as audiobooks go, it was only 13 hours instead of like 18 or 20.
That's medium. Short would be 8 hours.
Okay, well, I was able to do it in one day. There were a couple of moments where characters like suddenly clicked for me that I ended up really liking. Um, so for
It was all the
our
non-Auric dragons.
yeah, all well, those never had to be redeemed. They were always good
Okay.
to me.
Okay.
But for Auric, you know what? No, Auric didn't have one. But Cameron's redeeming moment was at the end of the book, after they get married and all that. Cameron is kind of musing to himself about how he wants to use his master's in engineering, and his knowledge of magic to create basically an apparatus that will allow Auric to fly again. And yeah, that's very How to Train Your Dragon, but at the same time, like that's actually incredibly sweet to even just think about like how you would go about doing that, because like that's the one thing that Auric I think is really really sore about is he can't fly anymore. The sister, I can't remember her name. Was it Callie?
I can't remember her
Um,
name.
using a baseball bat to like beat the shit out of a mage, and like they were even the dragons were impressed. They were like, "Holy shit, she single-handedly,
I like her
stopped."
already.
Yeah. Um, the grandmother was fine, aside from the super racist voice the narrator gave her. Um, she was great because she was just like, yeah, I always knew dragons were still alive, you fucking morons. And then she's like, I can't wait to meet them.
I
And
told
then
you we were a magic family.
magic family. The dragons call her and they're like, hey, we're trying to fill in some of the blank spots in the family tree and trying to fill in like loose,
Oh,
stuff
don't
we don't know.
worry. I
And she's
have
like,
binders. How
I
far
have
back do you need
binders.
to go?
Yeah, and she's just like, bam, throws down a huge binder and she's flipping through it and she's like, "What do you want to know?" Like I liked her. She was she gave off the impression of like she was just waiting for this to happen, and she was like, "I can't die until, I fulfill this purpose or whatever." Um, and yeah, that's it. Th- like I said, the I hated the villains. The villains were stupid. They were basically just, cut and paste terrorists from like every fucking action movie. They are always described as dudes in full black with balaclavas and or masks or whatever. And the villain is so powerful that at one point they're trying to spy on. They find out the Yaqui tribe lives in an entire village all their own, and they need to find out what they're planning. So the dragons send in a drone, and the drone is essentially a kitty cat made of shadow. It's borderline invisible, and they have it tapped with multiple magic spells so that everything the cat hears and sees can be portrayed into a mirror, so that the dragons can see what the cat sees, and then they also make it invisible and also remote controllable. And so they have the cat go in there and spy on the meeting, and then the bad guy just says like a crucial part of their plan or whatever, and then smirks and looks directly at the cat, walks over, picks it up, and he's like, "Oh, I hope you heard that. It's a shame I can't hear you. Haha, fuck you." And then like kills it, or no, he doesn't kill it. They dispel it. But like, you have a bad guy who's so comically powerful that he can just see through magic
I can
that
see through your
takes
spells.
takes multiple people to do. And they're all just like, "Oh my god, how did he do it?" And it's like this super powerful mage can't keep control of one small child in his compound full of other mages. Like, what a fucking loser you must be. This book was garbage.
Yeah. But was it enjoyable, Garbage?
It it kinda it was more enjoyable screaming about it to
Yeah.
someone who, like to you
Like,
guys and to you,
right
but
now, the last hour and a half was fun.
it wasn't enjoyable getting through it. No. And
Do you want to read the sequels?
no. No.
Aye.
And here's the thing. Take everything I said with like a grain of salt because I just think I don't like erotica. If it's described as human on human bullshit, I don't care. I'm a monster fucker and I
you would have been
like
fine with
tetrophilia.
erotica if it was an actual dragon.
Yes. It's like I stop advertising that you are doing dragon on human erotica.
Be
Don't
the
even put
change you
the
want to see in the
word
world, Bantam.
But yeah, I am a certified monster fucker. And it aggravates the piss out of me when the monster, as Ray said, is just human with different. And I get really heated up. I'm not gonna. Don't worry, Ray. I'm gonna keep this short. I get really fucking heated about like classic sci-fi TV shows doing the same fucking thing. When they remade V, the old '70s TV show about lizard men aliens coming to Earth, and that whole series, the aliens looked relatively cool. Like they put effort into the costumes and shit. And then they did a remake like in the aughts and it was just humans. And every once in a while the human skin would tear open and you'd see scales under it. And they're like, "Ah, Battlestar Galactica, the fucking I don't even remember what they're called. Cylons, the fucking giant silver robot dudes with the visor that red light that goes back and forth." And in the newest series, they're like they're so evolved with their technology that they can pass as human, indistinguishable from what humans are. And it's like you're just being fucking lazy. You don't want to put any effort into your CGI or your costumes. You just have a bunch of fucking human actors, and some of them are aliens, and it's fucking stupid. And I hate Star Trek for the same fucking reason. It's like it's all just humans, except this one's got a ridge on his forehead. This one's got a weird cut in his nose. This one's got big ears. They're fucking humans.
Mm-hmm. Preach.
God, fucking Ray probably, I don't know what your actual thoughts are on the Orville TV show, but there were really cool fucking aliens in there that they put a lot of effort into the CGI to put actual fucking aliens on board their ship. Granted, most of the main characters are still just human plus, but uh, I loved Orville. They one of their crew members was just a giant fucking blob of slime that could talk, and
My problem with the Orville is I'm just not super into. I think the term is irreverent comedy shows,
well,
stuff like Rick and Morty, or whatever.
that's the thing though. Orville started off that way, and then because Star Trek basically just ate shit for like a year, Star Trek Discovery was so fucking bad that Star Trek fans were like, "Wow, this Star Trek series sucks." And then they started watching Orville, and what ended up happening was halfway through season 1, Seth MacFarlane realized, holy shit, actual Trekkies enjoy my show more than their actual show. And so the show actually pivoted more into classic Star Trek territory. Like there were really good emotional episodes with really good philosophical shit. And there wasn't a ton of comedy. Like it wasn't slapstick every episode. It was more like traditional classic Star Trek than Star Trek was,
Yeah,
when
well,
Orville was there.
maybe I'm also just not into sci-fi, so it's still a maybe. But yeah, I just don't like the irreverent comedy shows, stuff like as Rick and Morty or that Illuminati one that you made me watch that got canceled.
Oh, Inside Job?
Yeah, that one. Stuff like
Fuck,
that I just don't generally like because that type
I
of
love
humor
Inside Job.
is it's. I enjoy crass humor, but those shows take it way too fucking far.
I I just liked it because as far as main characters of a cartoon, it's not very often you get a female main character, but the fact that she's basically Rick, but not just an asshole. She's just socially awkward, and I just thought that Reagan, the main character from Inside Job, did a really good job in her show. And then the show got canceled, and just can't have nice things.
Yeah. All right. Well,
As Taryn says, Inside Job got canned because it was interesting. Yeah. It was once they did the episode with the actual Insane Clown Posse, they were like, all right, we're done with this show.
all right. Well, thank you for joining us, everybody, as we discussed and more like ranted about the book, the worst dragon shifted erotica that we have ever read so far. There could be worse out there. I'll let you know if I find one.
When you say that, I'm picturing, that the more you know star that shoots across the sky and it says the more you know.
Yeah.
It's like the star shooting across the sky. The worst book ever.
Worst book ever award goes to. But yeah, so next episode, which is going to be relatively soon, because we procrastinated too long. We have such short time to get it out now. We are doing another pre-release, I guess we can call it. We were given an advanced copy of D.M. Gilmore's new series, The Lost. I thought it was Last, so I had to double check. The Lost Fire Breather, which he describes as basically Dragon Avatar: The Last Airbender, a little bit. So we're going to do that. We're going to release the first half. It's going to be 2 halves again because, pre-release. We're going to release the first half, the review half with no spoilers, the same day that the book itself was released, which I believe is the 13th. So we got 11 days. And then a week later, we'll do the second half, the spoiler-filled half.
And then after that, we're going to do the Dragon Keeper React movie thing.
I mean, we said that last time. We just need to fucking sit down and do it. The problem is we got 2 people here in the audience who keep stealing us for video games. Shame on you guys.
Shame on you two, you monsters.
Monsters.
I was dragged forcibly against my will
into
playing
Solasta and
weeks of
3.
Solasta, and then Baldur's Gate 3. I was like, no, mercy, please. And they're like, too bad, we're playing Baldur's Gate 3. And I was like, no, patch 8, let's go.
Playing 5 hours every night straight up to like 2 or 3 in the morning.
Arcane Archer is so much fun. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So again, thank you for joining us. Bantam, you got our social links so fast?
I do not. Give me a sec. Pin messages. There they are. All right.
Where can they find us, Bantam, if they want to refute the fact that this is the worst book ever?
Really, honestly, right now it's just on Ko-fi and email. Our email is wadpodcastmail@gmail.com. We don't have a Twitter anymore because fuck Twitter, and also Dilettante was in charge of it and then gave up.
Yeah, we have a Blue Sky, we just haven't been using it. Is the problem.
Yeah, and I think Dilettante's in charge of that too.
Fuck you, Dilettante.
Yeah, so we have a Discord. It'll be linked in the show notes, and then we have a Ko-fi, and the Ko-fi is kofi.com/wadpodcast. But if you really want to get in touch with us, the Discord is the best place for that. Each one of us have our own lair.
Yeah.
You should absolutely bulldoze Dilettante's lair.
I should seal it off with police tape. He gets it back if he comes back to the podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, there you go. That's where you can.
Yeah, the Discord link will be in the description, which is usually attached to the episode on the main Buzzsprout page, or usually also linked in, I think, Trasniks posts us on Reddit sometimes. But yeah, Discord links, they're a nightmare, so it'll be there in the text somewhere. Anyway, thanks again for joining us, and we'll see you guys all next time.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.